Well, good morning, all, and we'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, to the members and guests as well. I'd just like to start with introductions. I'm Dave Betzler. I'm the chair of the Regional Advisory Council representing Monument Tri-Lakes area.
I'm Lisa Aldridge. I'm PPACG AAA staff.
Before I forget, we need to be using the microphones eventually, too.
Yeah, there's a button that has a voice coming out of it, and so if you just turn it on and off when you speak, but don't leave it on the whole time because then there'll be a lot of background chatter.
Cynthia Aki, Colorado Springs. Phyllis Hudgens, Eastern El Paso County.
Jody Barker, Alzheimer's Association, Central Colorado.
I'm Andrew Bunn. I'm from the Department of Human Services.
Welcome,
is my
member.
Yep, first meeting. I've been with the county for about 7 years. I currently manage the Adult and Family Services area, which is Adult Protective Services, Long-Term Care, and Adult Financial. So happy to be here. Thank you, everybody.
Great asset.
Great.
Francis St. Germain, El Paso County. Joe Louise, Colorado Springs. Norma Garbani, AAA. Carol Parks, Teller County.
Jerry Novak, Colorado Springs.
Marilyn Massey, Colorado Springs.
We have another late edition.
Wendy Farr, Colorado Springs.
Okay. That's the membership. Visitors, guests.
Scott Bartlett, long-term care ombudsman. Dave Summers, Edith.
All right, thank you, and welcome again. Go ahead.
Yes, the official record for attendance at this meeting is the sign-in sheets because usually as soon as we leave the room, we forget who all was here. So that's what we use to jog our memory for the minutes. So if you could, be sure that you sign in so that we'll have a record that you were here and we can include you in the minutes as an attendant. Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have move on to the consent items then. The agenda for today is before you. I think everybody picked up a copy. And are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Yeah. Jody.
Yes, I'd like to just, in the public comments, I'm listed as re-elected as chair of Colorado Springs Commission on Aging. I'd just like to clarify for the record that's the Colorado Commission on Aging. I don't want to take away from the fantastic folks here in town that are on that commission.
Okay, was that in the minutes?
It's in the public comments, number 3 from last month.
I found it.
That is in the minutes.
The chair of the Colorado Commission on Aging is
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Right. Well, first, we're talking on the consent items about the agenda for today's meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are there any changes to today's agenda?
I have one question. Did you still want me to do a review of the membership?
Yes. So we can do that, how about when we have public comments? How about doing it then, okay?
Great.
Any other changes suggested for the agenda? If not, we can move on to the minutes. Now we have, Jody, you have your change to the minutes.
Yes.
And that's on item
Number 3
3.
from last month's meeting, yes.
Okay. Are there any other changes or additions to the minutes? If not, these are consent items. Are all those in favor of the agenda and the minutes as changed or amended? Say aye. Opposed? Okay, we've got that. So on public comments, so then Wendy, if you would kind of run through the membership. This is something that we're each on the rack for a period of time, and we're allowed 2 consecutive terms, I believe, and then you have to be off for a period of time before you could perhaps come back on. It's an important thing to maintain the representation across the geographies, across the 3 different counties, and different types of organizations. So with that, I'd like to have Wendy go ahead and give us a rundown on the membership. Yes. Push this.
You have to turn it on and
This
off.
one, there we go.
There you go.
It doesn't say on, so it's confusing. So where we stand right now, and just to clarify one thing, as Dave was mentioning, so when we come on as a council person, it's from the year, so the end of 12/31 of this year is when everything starts over again for next year. It doesn't matter when you came in during the year. So the fact that you're coming in and in between, not at the beginning of the year, doesn't matter. So sometimes it seems like you're actually doing less than a full 3 years if you didn't actually come in just before January of the year you came. So just to clarify that, it's not the month you came in, it starts in January. So with that, this year what we have, actually I'm just going to go down. So Cynthia, you may renew for a second term as of at the end of December of next year, so in 2019. So does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. And B, you are exactly the same. So you'd be one more year, and then you choose to renew for a second term. Jody, you are not until the end of 2020. Dave, at 2020, you cannot renew. And what that means is he would be at the end of his second term. So that would be a full 6 years. And for those of us who have done this a couple rounds, Joe, Joe and I am looking at one another. So after you've done the 2 3-year terms, you need to be off for a period of at least 1 calendar year. And then if for any reason there's not someone else, or if we beg and plead and hope that you'll come back like we have in the past, after that 1 year absence, you can come back on again for another 2 3-year terms. Okay? Any confusion on that? It took me my first 2 3-year terms to figure it out. So that's sort of how that happened, yeah. So at the end of 2020, Dave, you would not be able to renew. Lucy, again, is also 2020. Now, when it comes to those who are representing the park or the different counties, that does not cover you guys. So you don't have the terms. All right? So, Richard, is that you? Yeah. Oh, okay. So myself, I would also be 2020, so I would not be able to renew then. Norma. Yes. I know I saw her here. At the end of this year, you're not able to renew. So there's one slot that we need filled. Dixie is at the end of 19. Phyllis, end of 19. Margaret can choose to renew this year. So just as, again, we're all in different options. Marilyn cannot renew after 12 of 19. And then Jen is also like Jody, came at the same time. Jerry cannot renew. There's our second slot we need to fill. Carol, you don't apply. Joe cannot renew. And Francis cannot, wait, you don't apply because it's the El Paso County too, that's right. And then Joyce can choose to renew in 19. So just to give an idea, so where we all are, and that's one of the things about membership committee is figuring out who's where and at what time and whether you can renew or whether you can't. Phyllis? I think you'll be at the end of your second term. You would not be able to renew, yeah. So if you have any other specific questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will send this spreadsheet out to everyone just so we kind of know where we're at. For those who have been helping on the membership committee with me, it looks like we have 3 slots, potentially 4 slots. Yeah, so as to how many people were you looking for, I know we have a couple of applications already, but if you do know people, we're looking for good, qualified folks. Jerry will be difficult to replace with his wonderful finance background. So any suggestions or people that you can encourage, that would be a fabulous help for us.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Excuse me, we need to be using the microphones.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There it is, there.
Oh, there you go. If I can talk to Nancy about getting her back on this committee?
That would be a possibility.
Would that work as far as, that was my,
Yeah.
I'd really like to get Nancy back.
If now's a good time for her based on all the family
Exactly.
stuff, yeah.
If she's in a better place.
Yeah, let me double check on exactly how that would go, if that was, because if that's more of a leave of absence and that kind of takes a pause, or
Okay.
if that would start her over again. I'm
Okay.
not sure, but we'll figure that out. That's a good question.
Okay.
That's a good question. Yes, Norma?
Thank you.
Wendy, I think you named 7 names.
So the people who
Ending
cannot
in
renew
19.
are you and Jerry and Joe, Ruth. So those 3.
Oh, okay, I thought Phyllis and Marilyn and
But
Dixie
those are
and
for
Judy.
the next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm counting
No, you're representing the position, they represent the position for the county, not that you're a citizen who lives in the county. Does that make sense? No. Because,
So
for
she's an-
example,
she's
I'm an
appointee,
appointee.
right?
she's
Teller
appointed
County.
by the
Difference.
county to be the representative on this council. You are a private citizen who lives in that county, who represents the citizens of that area, but you're not appointed by the county. I have no idea what you're talking about. So, again, I will send this out to everyone, just so we kind of know where we're at, but it looks like we need 3 at this point. Joe, did
I
you
have a-
want to say something? Oh, yes, Fran.
Would my term ordinarily be ending at the end of this year, or?
Well, I think your term would have ended a couple years ago. I'm not sure that we've kept track how long you've been a part of our council, have we? But if we need to find a limitation, or if it's time to find somebody different, we'll talk. Okay?
Can we,
Did I say that nicely?
Can we take a short pause real quick
Okay.
with the microphones? Because I want to be sure that we get all of this recorded and I also want to introduce Jessica Bechtel. Some of you may remember Jessica. She was a temp, but she is now with us on a permanent basis. So she'll be here providing admin support to us. So I wanted to say welcome, Jessica. That means less for Joe and I to have to do. So welcome, Jessica. The microphones, these are, they're all wired, and in order to be recorded, it has to be on. There's a limit to how many can be on. Jessica, is it?
It's 8 now.
Oh, is it 8? Okay. So, but we have to turn them on and off when we use them. So before you talk, you're going to push the button with the voice coming out, and this ring will turn red. And then when you're sure you're done talking, then you just push it again, and the ring will go off. So that way we'll get all of the information on the recording that we'll need for next month's minutes, and we won't miss anything. So I apologize for the interruption, but it was getting a little wonky, and I was afraid we were going to miss something.
Jody?
Yeah, a question for Wendy. On the list that you're going to send us,
Mhm.
can you designate if it's like from which area, so that if we're trying to
Yes, it
solicit
does.
members?
Yeah,
then
it
we
actually
can-
has a list as to what organization, county, and/or area regionally, I should say geographically, that you're representing as well, yes.
Wendy,
One
I'm sorry.
area that we don't have covered, I believe, is the southern part of El Paso County. We did have Fountain Security covered at one point, but I've lost his name now. But when he went off, I think it was a year ago, that was, that we don't have anyone in that area. So that's one place that we could use some help.
So I have a question. How long is one term?
3 years.
And what's the term limits?
2. So
it would be
3 and
6.
Yeah.
I'm confused as to why Norma is coming up, because she hasn't even been here 6 years, much less a member of the RAC.
Well, and I am not a Western El Paso County representative. I'm a representative of the AAA as a volunteer there, but I am not involved in Manitou Springs or any other western area. So this designation on my name tag is incorrect.
And you haven't been a member for 6 years either, am I correct? You couldn't have been.
No.
Well, I'll have to take, this is the last one I got just before Carrie left. I'll have to take a look and see what the,
Jerry, you had a question or comment? No. Okay. And Marilyn has comments.
I have excuse me, I have the opportunity to do something exciting, and I need to resign because I'll be leaving the state in November. But I have the opportunity to go back, and because I'm a genealogist, and I'm going to be working as a volunteer for Family Search, which is a billion genealogy database. I'm going to be digitizing the applications to become members of the descendants of the Mayflower. And there's 85,000 currently, and each one has 4-page application plus 4 plus to prove what they've just said in the application. So I'm excited, and but I'm not sure when I'm going to be leaving. But I'll definitely be gone in November. And it's been fun. I've missed a lot this year because I've been other places. But when I come back, I hope you'll reconsider me if there's an opening.
so that means 4 openings.
Right. So Wendy,
We'll
thank
check
you
on
very
that.
much for going through that. I think the easy way on the spreadsheet that you have there, just attach that to the minutes.
Yeah.
Jessica can probably do that, so everybody gets a
Okay.
chance to review that information. Are there any other public comments that need to be made at this point that are? If not, we can move on to information items, provider presentations. The first one is from Park County, and I don't see Bobby here, so I guess we'll set that one aside for now. Scott, you're here, so we'll move to AAA and the Long-Term Care Ombudsman, Scott Bartlett.
Good morning. My name is Scott Bartlett, and I am one of 4 long-term care ombudsmen here at the AAA. So I don't know if everyone knows what an ombudsman is. Sometimes people have trouble even pronouncing the word. But essentially what we are is we are a federally mandated advocacy program for people that live in long-term care. So meaning state licensed assisted livings and nursing homes. And what we do is we investigate complaints, help solve problems both on the individual level. Those could be anything from the coffee's cold to allegations of abuse. We also do work around systemic advocacy, assisting the public to be better educated about long-term care choices and options, how to navigate long-term care services. We do some advocacy with the state and federal government on policies and regulations as well. So in mind of that, if you look at our services here, the numbers, we track things differently than probably a lot of other programs are. We don't do service units. What we track, the most important, well, we track a lot of things, but the most important numbers that we have are facility visits. So during this time period, 16 and 17, we did 676 facility visits, meaning we went into 676 licensed assisted livings and nursing homes. We completed 2,856 activities that were not complaint related. So what those are consultations to, say, a resident or a family member. Let's say they were private pay, and now they need to look at applying for Medicaid. We'll educate them about that process. It could be, educating residents and family members on a number of long-term care options. Same is true about facilities. We do a lot of consultation with facilities around how to manage, say, challenging behaviors or interpretation of regulations, that kind of thing. That also is inclusive of trainings. to staff, residents, and the community. Sometimes during our visits, of course, we run into complaints and we open cases, meaning that there's a problem and the resident or family member, normally it's a resident or family member, but it could be basically anybody can file a complaint with us. And in those 318 cases, we've investigated, again, anything from dietary complaints to abuse. And we follow those through to the end. It's important to understand that no matter who the complainant is, the resident is always our client. So sometimes we get into cases where a family member may have an issue, but we go to the resident and they say, listen, I don't want you to do anything about this, and we have to honor their wishes. As far as accomplishments, a few months ago we had, so every year we're audited by the state ombudsman, and every other year it's just a desk audit. In between, she comes down and spends the day with us. So this year we had a successful desk audit. Program is identified as a leading program in Colorado. We are involved in a way, I think, that is benefiting not only individual long-term care residents and families of the region, but the advocacy that we're doing in this office extends to the state and in some instances even the nation. Some of the things that we're doing here are actually being replicated in other areas, specifically our work around committees, and I'll get into that in just a moment. So systemic advocacy, I think one of the biggest things so far is I'm involved with this strategic planning group with the state, and this developed out of replicating one of our meetings here locally called behavioral health. What they're trying to solve is the issue. We have large incidents of long-term care residents, either through mental health or severe behaviors due to dementia and Alzheimer's, aren't being accepted anywhere as far as placement in the long-term care facilities. They are often aggressive. Often facilities do not have the training, sometimes not even the will to accept these individuals. And so the result of that is that we have a number of individuals in this community in both hospital systems sitting in emergency rooms or other hospital settings with nowhere to go. There's been individuals up to 2 years. There's an individual right now that I'm working with where, and this has happened more than once, the search to find placement has been exhausted not only locally, but every nursing home in the state has been contacted, and every nursing home in our surrounding states have been contacted. And so there's enough of these that we need to find a different way. They deserve placement. Hospitals nowhere for somebody to live. They're not designed to be a residential center. And so through this group with state agencies, we're looking at, I think the big question is, do we need a new model? Do we need to change regulations and statute? Do we need to look at higher reimbursement rates for people that have more complex and acute needs? So we're very fortunate to be a part of that conversation. And we've got a lot to say. We've been working on this locally for quite a while, and why we've been invited to that meeting. And that's through community partners, too, so that's not just me alone. I am the one going to the meeting, but we do that it came about through community participation. So our long-term care ethics, community ethics meeting is very well known, has a lot of successes in itself in individual case reviews and also systemic advocacy. And through that, we develop subcommittees. One of them is behavioral health, which is kind of tackling that issue I just discussed. From there, we've developed a behavioral health work group, which is the action arm of that committee. We are also involved in adult protection review teams in both Teller and El Paso counties. We have an ombudsman attending the Elder Abuse Coalition and a Transition to Care Committee. As far as trainings, another issue that we're seeing a lot of, we're investigating a lot of complaints on surrogate decision makers who overextend their legal authority, meaning powers of attorneys or guardians. They're making decisions for individuals that they do not have the legal right to make. So what it does is it potentially becomes a civil rights issue. And so in mind of that, some of my focus has been to educate surrogate decision makers about proper use of surrogate decision making. And one of the things that I did recently was I attended the National Guardianship Association conference that was here in Colorado Springs, and did a training with guardians about decision making in long-term care. We also attended World Elder, so June 15th every year is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. This is an initiative from the United Nations and the World Health Organization. This is the third consecutive year that we've had a presence there. I was in Teller County, provided a speech, had a table there, and spoke to people about elder abuse. Some of our challenges are facility discharges, much related to the issue that I just mentioned. So I've been here for 13 years, and when I first started, our complaints were things like more on the side of the coffee's cold or the chicken's undercooked. And now it's, we're seeing large instances of substance abuse, really acute mental health issues, resident-to-resident abuse, families exploiting residents for their money. And 13 years isn't that long, but the job is definitely more complex as the needs of people. Well, I think we're seeing people with more acute needs in long-term care in just that short amount of time. And with that comes increased challenges. And so often facilities are, in some cases, not even really set up, did not anticipate these complex and acute needs of residents. And sometimes they feel, and sometimes they're right, there is some allowances in the regulations to involuntarily and immediately discharge a resident. But in a lot of cases, I think we feel that if there was more training, more community partnership, facilities wouldn't have to be left with that choice. But we're seeing a lot of facilities sending people to the hospital and not taking them back, or we've seen even facilities discharging to shelters or the street. And so this is a major problem that we're trying to solve with our community partners, with state agencies, and again through local committee work. Already kind of talked about improper use of surrogate decision maker. And we've got increasing needs for long-term care behavioral supports. We're, again, doing that through training, systemic advocacy, investigating resources, and through committees. Some unmet needs. We see a growing need for Medicaid secure units in the region, specifically in assisted living. There hasn't been any growth in nursing homes, but even less so in Medicaid assisted living. Frankly, the reimbursement rates do not make a good business model, so that's why we're not seeing any growth in that area. So I know that's going to be a problem. I get calls from family a lot, and they are not happy with the limited choices that they have. And again, lack of placement for residents who have significant behavioral concerns, and I've pretty much touched on that. And I guess that's it. Do you have questions? Yes, ma'am.
Use the microphone.
I was under the understanding, course, I'm out east, but on your facilities, I thought that they had a special area for your living people that had like Alzheimer's or dementia start of in each one of these places.
No, that's not the case. So there is no standard that no statute regulation that they must provide a secure unit. If a facility does that, it's by their choice. Often because those units need to be staffed with higher staff to resident ratios, and they're dealing with more acute needs. A lot of facilities choose not to do that. And so as we have a growing population that needs that level of supports, we're not seeing the growth, unless you're talking private pay. So, that should be noted. There's a difference, but we've got an inadequacy and imbalance in how healthcare is distributed in this area. If you've got money, you're probably going to be okay. If you need Medicaid, your choices are going to be severely limited, and it may take a while to find a placement.
And they don't have one special place that anywhere that these people...
Well, there are several, but like I said, majority do not. If a facility... An example would be Namaste. So Namaste is licensed as a nursing home. The entire nursing home is licensed as a secure unit. But others, you have building, and I should preface this too. I think buildings should make a choice about what they're going to do and do that well. We do not want buildings opening up secure units just to have secure units. We want them to do that well. If they aren't providing the adequate resources to open these units, and we see high incidence of abuse and injuries, we don't want that either. So somehow we need to promote that secure units, growth of secure units, but also give the right resources so that it's done correctly and people are safe. Yeah.
Scott, could you give some examples of the surrogate decision-making that cause problems?
So one that I think will forever stick with me was a gentleman who had a brain injury. That's how he ended up in long-term care. He had a fiancée at the time of his injury, and for reasons I won't mention, she decided not to pursue guardianship as herself, but allowed someone else to be a private guardian to step in, someone that was not a relative, someone that was paid to be a guardian. And immediately the guardian was doing things like disallowing access to his fiancée, doing things like disallowing him access to his own property, being very disruptive in his health care, approached the court and told the court, asked the court to write an order that they would be the only ones that could call law enforcement if he were abused, which is against, conflicts with state law. So those are the kinds of things we're seeing. And when we're talking power of attorney, it gets even more gray there, because often people believe that with the power of attorney they have carte blanche kind of decision making, and that's not true. So power of attorney is a contract between you and somebody else that says you can act on my behalf, but it does not give you the right to override the person that you're power of attorney for. A lot of decision making that we're seeing are around relationships, where guardian or power of attorney is the son. He's got an issue with his sister that's the daughter, and says to the facility, I don't want my sister visiting my mom. And in the meanwhile, the mom's like, that's my daughter. I want to see my daughter. And so we step in and educate, and sometimes it's very tense, sometimes they listen to us. But those are kind of classic examples.
Thank you. Do you have to have a conservator along with guardianship?
Sometimes. It depends on the individual. Sometimes guardians are provided through order the ability to become conservator Sometimes you see, particularly if it's a paid guardian, you will see another agency become conservator alongside with that guardian. But a lot of times, family members are provided through the court, powers to manage finances at the same time. Depends on the case. It could be either. Other questions? Yeah.
Are you able to follow your court cases and appear in court on behalf of your client?
That is the most frustrating thing. No. So,
Scott, would you mind repeating the question?
question is, can ombudsman get involved in hearings through the court? And the answer to that is no. And the reason why, so we have an attorney general named Sierra Ward that we consult with on legal matters. And traditionally across the nation, not just here in Colorado, they do not want ombudsmen appearing in court. So I can't even be subpoenaed. So if a subpoena comes my way, the attorney general is going to quash it. Reason why is that there's a feeling that if we were to testify in court, we may inadvertently advocate against the person that is our client. And number two, we have very strong confidentiality laws surrounding the program, both at the federal and state level. So like when we're talking mandatory reporting, ombudsmen are exempt of that because of the confidentiality laws around the program. I would very much like to get involved in court, but at the moment, at least, I am not allowed to.
I think we've all heard that Joe and his travels around the state always gets plaudits for this AAA and for the RAC and the rest of it. I think it's really a tribute, again, to the quality of the employees here supporting and advocating on behalf of seniors. It really is a huge testament to what Scott's doing when he's recognized at not only at the local, state, and even federal level, not only recognized but seen as an active member of that, active, contributing, substantive expert. That's really huge. This AAA and El Paso County has got a great reputation. It's largely attributed to Scott, so I just want to publicly thank you for what you're doing. It really does have an impact. It's really a huge area.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I just want to say as well, I've been working with Scott, I don't know how many years now, on all of the levels that he was referring to, from long-term care, assisted living facilities, to guardianship. I'm a national certified guardian. And without Scott's help and guidance, I don't know if I would have continued, to be very honest. Many times I would just call him and just say, hey, this is what I understand. This is what's going on. Am I okay? And, he was, just a blessing. Because as a provider, it can be very challenging, and the liability is huge. So I just want to personally thank Scott.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That really that helps keep us knowing that we're doing the right thing. But it also gives me an opportunity to talk about how important it is that ombudsmen form a relationship with facilities to solve these problems. We're not always going to see eye to eye, and sometimes it's going to be tense, but we try to come from this office and building a relationship and still having mutual respect, even though we may not see eye to eye on things sometimes.
You mentioned also, Scott, that you've been here for 13 years, and obviously we all know that the number of seniors is growing in the area, and aging, and some aging cohort as well. Are you comfortable with the level of support that you have individually within the AAA, because the population that you're serving and trying to advocate for is growing? You're a one-man band or maybe a 1.5-person effort, so is the staffing an issue that we need to at least be aware of as well?
So my vision it depends on what kind of program we want to have. A good one. Well, I'm talking more of, do we just want to meet the compliance aspect of like what we're supposed to do, or do we want to be a leading program? And so my vision is that we would have enough staff that we could meet the needs of an increasing population and do the things that we're supposed to. which is complaint investigation, education, and support to residents and families. But I want us to be more involved in the larger issues. And to do that, we may need more staff. My vision for the lead ombudsman, which is what I am, is to remove that position from, to mimic kind of what Denver has. So Denver, the lead there, is not doing complaint investigations. They're doing more program support to individual ombudsmen, but also intervening more with the state and more with the federal government, and advocating on really the issues that may cause the individual complaints, if you understand what I'm saying. So solving the issue where it starts, not just trying to help with the symptoms.
Get a little bit ahead of it rather than just whack-a-mole.
Right.
Any other thoughts or comments? Again, I just wanted to say, repeat in a different sense that this program is really one of the strengths of the AAA, and I think it's recognized across the state and obviously across the region. Just want to, again, thank you for everything that you do on this on behalf of advocacy for seniors.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Let's see, so we're on now to the, well, why don't we do the, Karen, doing program for the AAA, then we'll get to Bobby at this point since he came in a little bit late. Is that okay, Bobby? Okay, so go ahead, Karen.
So good morning. I'm Karen Morgan, and I'm a SHIP counselor with the Area Agency on Aging. The SHIP program stands for the State Health Insurance Assistance Program. And many folks in this room are probably familiar with the fact that this office assists individuals with Medicare counseling and Medicare questions. The SHIP program essentially consists of 5 individuals here at the office, and we are advocates for seniors with Medicare coverage. Our SHIP program covers 9 counties. So there are essentially 5 case managers who cover El Paso, Park, Teller, Lake, Chaffee, Fremont, Huerfano, and Los Animas counties. That's many, many seniors that we meet with over the course of a year. In the last 2 weeks, I personally traveled to Buena Vista, Leadville, Walsenburg, Trinidad, and Salida, and met with a number of seniors there to speak about their Medicare questions. How many people in this room have Medicare coverage? How many of you understand your Medicare coverage? So, we do insurance counseling here at the Area Agency on Aging as well as out in the rural communities. Every year, we help individuals with Medicare understand their Part D prescription drug coverage options, their Medicare Advantage plan options. We talk about low-income subsidy or whether individuals might be eligible for assistance. Scott spoke about the Ombudsman program and spoke at length about long-term care and assistance that they provide to individuals in the facilities. Many, many, many of those individuals and their families, prior to them entering facilities, come to this office and speak to the SHIP counselors seeking assistance regarding insurance questions and options. We spend quite a bit of time assisting individuals completing long-term care Medicaid applications. We do educational presentations as well with the SHIP program. I currently am the only SHIP representative who does traveling, and I, as I said, cover 9 counties. So depending on the needs of an area, I've been called to present at health fairs or at lunch sites. We've done quite a few lunch and learns over the past few months, and it's a good opportunity for this program to have a face, for there to be a person associated with the name of the program. Our flyers, our pamphlets, the information that we provide newsletters, we provide handouts, we provide even placemats that we will print up and bring out to the lunch sites with our information. We are trying to get our telephone number, our name, our faces out to the rural communities so that the individuals that perhaps don't live right here in El Paso or Teller or even Park counties who aren't able to just pop into the office for some assistance know that this help is available to them. So our insurance counseling includes comparing insurance coverages, explaining how your employer group health plan might compare to Medicare. Oftentimes individuals who are getting close to Medicare age aren't certain whether they need to apply for Medicare. Should I keep my employer group health plan? Am I required to take Medicare coverage? What if I want to continue to work past 65 years of age? These are issues that our counselors can help beneficiaries resolve and empower them to make some decisions on their own, informed decisions. So we can educate consumers about some of the guidelines when purchasing insurance, whether it's health insurance or even long-term care insurance. And again, the Part D prescription drug coverage annual review. Last year alone, during open enrollment, our SHIP program assisted individuals in the 9 counties save over $1 million in their prescription drug costs. And that was a result of reviewing prescription drug plan options and determining whether there was a better choice or a better option available for the coming year. By reviewing those coverages and by some of those seniors making changes, we were able to help those seniors save over $1 million in total for that particular period of time. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. Everyone who has Medicare coverage should review their prescription drug coverage every year, and that's a message that we try very hard to get out. There are many different assistance programs that are available in the counties. Low-income subsidy is one such program that helps seniors who have limited income and limited resources. It helps with your prescription drug costs, can keep your costs significantly lower than what you might otherwise encounter. And many individuals don't know that they might be eligible for such a program or don't know how to go about applying. We complete those applications here. We do education, we do outreach, and we also will manually complete and submit those applications on behalf of individuals. We work quite often with the Department of Human Services. We submit many Medicaid long-term care applications on behalf of seniors. We don't process those applications here, nor do we make those decisions, but quite often we are the source of information and guidance, and quite often multiple visits to get to the point where an individual is ready to submit an application with all of the required documentation so that they might have a more successful outcome. We will speak to church groups. We'll speak, as I said, we've done lunch and learns. The SHIP program has recently, or we're actually in the process of wrapping up quite an extended number of presentations that we've done with coordination with our local library district. Our Medicare 101 classes have been very well received in the community, and each month the SHIP program provides a Medicare 101, each educational program. It's typically 2.5 to 3 hours long, and those classes will typically bring in 20, 30, 40 individuals. And over the past 6 weeks, I think we've done 4 to 6 classes just on Medicare 101 education. There are many, many individuals that are aging in, that are becoming Medicare eligible, not just in El Paso County, but in all of the counties that we offer assistance to. In Custer County, for example, I was in West Cliff this last summer at a Health 9 fair. I found out that 50% of the individuals in Custer County are over 60 years of age. 50% of Custer County. So there are many individuals who are becoming eligible for Medicare who are aging into Medicare coverage. And the SHIP program's purpose is to provide education, to provide advocacy, and to provide resources to those individuals so that they can make some informed choices and feel comfortable about their level of knowledge. If not comfortable with that level of knowledge, certainly know where you can reach out to encounter individuals who are non-biased, who are not looking to sell insurance coverages, who are looking to provide information to seniors. One of the things that we do within the SHIP program is provide monthly newsletters as well. And some of you may be on our mailing lists and may be familiar with some of the newsletters and the information that we provide on a monthly basis. We provide fraud alerts as well as consumer tips to individuals. If you're not on our list, if you're not receiving these newsletters and you would like to receive them, please leave your email address on the sign-in sheet and we'll make certain that you do get our SHIP newsletter updates. One of the things that I really want to stress here is that the assistance that this program provides to seniors in our area is invaluable. Insurance counseling is by far the most requested service at the AAA throughout the year, and it's really associated with all of the other programs within the AAA. You know, whether individuals are working with the Caregiver Support Center or with our ombudsman, there are typically going to be questions about insurance that are going to be involved there as well. And particularly during the open enrollment period, we work with individuals regarding insurance questions and issues and crises. So, you know, understanding that many companies that are marketing their products do not have the best interests of our seniors at heart. It's important for our seniors and our consumers to know that they have an unbiased voice here with their best interests at heart. And that's what the SHIP program provides. We have a contract with the Division of Insurance. We are statewide trainers for all SHIP programs throughout the state of Colorado. We have a subject matter expert here, Roma Costanza, who provides training and education throughout the state. I personally have over 30 years of experience working in Medicare and insurance counseling. There are 5 of us here, and between us we have quite a bit of knowledge regarding insurance and the issues and the complexities that can be encountered during these visits. So it's important to know for our seniors and for our senior population that there is an area to come to. You can come to the SHIP program. You can call us. You can reach out to us. You can schedule an appointment or walk into our office and receive unbiased information and education regarding your Medicare questions. We're also happy to provide this information to our more rural communities, and we're making a very concentrated effort this year to reach out to those more rural communities. Does anyone have any questions for me regarding the SHIP program?
I have one. Do you have any rating system for the Medicare supplement plans? Or I know you couldn't advocate for from insurers?
We can provide information about how you can go online and access that information, there are ways that those programs are rated, but it's essentially their financial solvency that's rated. We do have information, the most current information regarding supplements and options, and certainly can sit down with you if you have questions about that. And we do provide quite a bit of information and guidance regarding supplements, but we do not sell insurance here, so we certainly are not able to enroll someone with a supplement insurance plan. Mm-hmm. There any other questions?
Again, just to sort of foot stomp what we said earlier about the value and the excellence within the AAA here in El Paso County, Karen and the group that that she leads are really doing a wonderful job. Again, the recognition at the state level as well as doing a commendable job across 9 different counties. That's really huge. I think sometimes we as the RAC members, we kind of lose sight, or at least don't focus on the amount of excellent expertise that is resident within the staff here. So again, just on behalf of the RAC, just like to thank you for what you're doing on behalf of seniors in the areas.
Thank you. It's my honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Phyllis, you had a question? Okay. So I think the next thing we have here, Bobby, this would be the Park County Senior Coalition. We had to change the agenda or the order of business here, but we're welcome, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
I have a couple of handouts also.
Bobby, I can help you.
Okay. Thank you. So on the agenda, Park County Senior Coalition, we are the only provider in Park County, and so for those of you who aren't familiar with our county, it is a little bit larger than El Paso County in size, with much less population, and the population is scattered throughout the county, primarily around the edges. So providing service in our county, imagine one of your agencies in El Paso trying to cover all of the services. It stays interesting. So the first handout that I provided, we actually have 8 programs that you funded last year on the agenda. Some of them were
Excuse me, Bobby, which one are you referring to, the handouts? I've got one. Is this the one you're referring to?
The
Okay, I don't have that
agency
one yet.
summary
Okay.
piece.
Okay.
I'll give you a minute to get that.
All right, thank you.
So the services in the agenda were combined a little bit, but you actually funded 8 programs in Park County last year. And most of those programs, we showed an increase in service being delivered, the number of clients receiving service. The reason that we believe that that was the case is, one, our office staff. We have some very good ladies answering the phones that are making it easier for clients to feel that it's safe to ask questions and that their concerns are being met. So the assisted transportation and transportation are primarily a voucher program. This year, the vouchers weren't isolated from the rest of service. There was some volunteer transportation through the client choice method, and then there was vouchers that were client-designated service providers, which means they get to choose whoever they want. And the people do not, the coalition is not an employer of those folks. They can choose a family member to drive them if needed. And we have had in Park County a request that our trips be less driven by what the coalition needed the trips to look like for the purposes of the program, and more driven by where that person needed to go. Because our people are around the outer edges of the county, what someone needs from the Bailey area can be quite different from what a person in Guffey would require. The vouchers have allowed people to do medical and grocery trips. Those are the only two trips that are funded through the voucher by our agency, even though it would allow more than that. The people have been utilizing those vouchers to accommodate a wide variety of needs and incorporated a lot more volunteers than what the coalition would have been able to access as an organization. So it's been very successful, but as people came in for transportation, they also came in for other services. And so we've seen growth overall. The other program that is impacted and has supported growth as well as showing the growth is case management. A lot of the case management numbers have to do with completing assessments. So all of the new people coming in for transportation vouchers had to receive an assessment, and that's the point when we generally made them aware of other programs as well. Some of those folks needed follow-up. Some of the services that they needed were things that the coalition wasn't in a position to provide, but we were able to provide referrals or help follow up to make sure that the agency that they were referred to was actually following through and getting them the service. The surveys that we've received for the services this past year have shown an increase in client satisfaction with services overall, and a lot of that is because of the layering that's happening with people getting service in not just prior to case management. The coalition did do information and assistance, but we would give a person the information of who to call, and then they were on their own. And now we're able to help follow up if they're not able to get the service that they needed from one organization or avenue. We can help them find other resources. So the success of each of the programs, ours are tied together because we have so many programs operating under one roof, that when one program succeeds, it tends to lend other programs success, and as a whole, the client is more supported. On the, for the numbers, so for case management, we've had some difficulty this year. We switched over from one reporting system to another and lost some of our information in the process. The old system of reporting tracked how many independent clients you had, how many, just a second, how many times a person had been counted was able to be separated from how many unique clients you had. The new reporting system doesn't allow us to do that. So the 268 being the largest population group, we're assuming that the case management people overlapped into those other services, but that would be our client count through these services this year. The Rural Area Meals Program shows a lower number of service units than we actually provided. This year, with some of the funding issues, all of the programs were hard to maintain with the ups and downs that all of the providers experienced this past year because of the federal funding. And with the meal program, the coalition had meals that we provided through other sources of funding or that the agency covered that aren't reported here because they were not PPACG meals. But people were maintained at a level of service similar to what they'd had in the past. Under accomplishments, one of the pieces that we've heard from seniors in our area is that they feel that the information is hard to access of what's available to them. And some of that, the general public response is different than the clients that we are actually working with. But in general, the coalition has been working on client education, outreach, and networking to increase client participation, but particularly this last year, more than any year previously. The funding issues, when the funding is uncertain or is decreased, The only way service is going to be provided is if we are working together with other agencies within our county, outside of our county, trying to layer the services so that there is less of a gap for the people who are requiring those services. That has been a major push this past year, but it's also a continuing request going forward. We have another group that has formed of concerned seniors in the Bailey area that one of their major concerns is that they don't feel the information is getting out. The coalition this past year has, we asked this past year, but we were granted or are in the process of becoming granted this year for information and assistance, and that is specifically to address some of the difficulties in getting information to people in our county. Park County does not have a radio station that reaches the entire county. We don't have one TV channel that covers the entire county. We have one newspaper that covers the county. It comes out once a week, and it's delivered to different parts of the county at different times. So, as a result, a lot of word of mouth is one of the best ways to get information out. The other piece is direct mailing. It's not as efficient as something like internet, but in Park County there are large portions of the county that do not have internet. And those that do have intermittent service, large downloads are hard to complete. Some parts of our county do not have phone service. We still have homes that, with the rocky ground, do not have hard lines that have come in, and people are operating on cell service that has been very hit and miss. So getting the information out is a little bit of a challenge. Under accomplishments, we listed our programs, but also the priority that they are taking in the current 4-year plan. And as you look at that, the majority of the programs are top priority programs. They have a priority of 1. Homemaking is a priority 2. It, in past plans, was identified as a 1 in Park County because there's nothing else, and with people being isolated, it becomes more of an urgent need than where you have neighbors that are close at hand that might be able to help. The voucher program pilot was something that we felt was a major achievement, not only because of the investment of energy on the front end to even be able to launch the program and working with Pikes Peak to get approvals of the process and how that program was going to look, but also the second handout that we gave you is a demonstration of how well that program has taken off. And the top line is the total of the transportation that was throughout the county. The assisted transportation unit started off as the primary emphasis. Those were the people that we reached first and who really took the program and ran with it. And then we had more general transportation. Again, these were still all for medical or grocery trips. We do not allow trips that we don't reimburse for trips that do not have a grocery or medical component. Park County has 1 grocery store in the entire county. When you consider that we're the size of El Paso plus a little and 1 grocery store, travel is going to be needed. And so that is the anchor, the basis for providing a trip. They can make additional stops after having a grocery or medical purpose for the trip. And as you can see, after the assisted transportation kind of caused the initial burst, we've had additional interest since then. part of what I was really pleased to see with the voucher program that we have not seen before is in other versions of transportation programs, is that the assisted transportation, those are the people that we're targeting, that we are prioritizing for service. And this version of a program is actually reaching those people and providing them the greatest service. The others that are using the program are benefiting but have not taken off at the same rate that you would expect. Assisted transportation is assisted transportation is based on the needs of the client, and so for someone to require assistance, they have to show that they have a inability themselves. It's usually a physical disability or sometimes a mental handicap or disability. So that is a small portion of the population, and they are hard to target when you're offering a transportation program. We need volume in Park County, which is a problem with the size of our population and the way that people are spread out. But we also want the services to go to the people who are the highest priority. And this program is accomplishing that, and it has accomplished that on its own. It's not been driven by us. The case management, actually all of the programs that we have, we had a lot of work on the part of the board, on the part of our volunteers and staff, to make sure that programs were maintained through the ups and downs this last year. And I'm sure other agencies have noted the same kind of patterns because of the funding issues. And then we also had some delays with reimbursements because of changes to how we needed to report things. So to be able to provide service in that kind of an environment and not only provide maintaining service, but to actually grow in that environment it took a lot of work on our part, and it was a commitment from our board that made that happen. So we feel that that was a pretty strong accomplishment. And then under the challenges, one of our challenges right now is that we're still in process of getting a contract executed. It's in process. It's nearly there. But the funding, if you don't have the contract, you can't hit any expenses against it. So again, we've pulled on relationships and tested our board's bravery, I guess, how willing they were to accept risk to keep the programs going. In essence, all of our people could be on a wait list, but we went to our county commissioners, and they have been willing to step up and assist us with covering some of our costs until we can get a reimbursement. Under the non-area agency on aging services, we did have significant veterans assistance that was provided this last year. Generally, the coalition gets add-on grants. When we go for funding, we don't tend to try to get funds that are for new programs, but will help expand the Older Americans Act programs because it makes more sense, and it's more core to our purpose of keeping seniors in their homes. The other piece is the Adult Protective Services team participation. We're getting more people that are coming through the Adult Protective Services team, and we do have a board member that is consistently attending all of those meetings so that we're able to be on the front end of assistance. One of the things that I would like the RAC to know is that over a year, and this is again going to be true for any of your subcontractors, the compliance for any of these grants, there's compliance that is measured on many different scales. So we have compliance with the 4-year plan. The 4-year plan performance indicators had to do with increasing the number of people who were receiving services, as well as increasing client satisfaction with services. And that is what we aimed at, and that is something that the coalition was able to accomplish this last year in most of our services. The contract measures also had some of the same performance indicators as the 4-year plan, and then it has more of the regulatory requirements that, again, is what we focus on with our programs, making sure that they remain within that compliance. And then the innovative grant parameters with the voucher program, the purpose of that was to not only increase the number of people that were benefiting from a program, but also to provide additional resources through that program. And I think that the participation shows that that was accomplished and that we are able to provide a more custom experience for people, which is what they were asking for and what a lot of them needed. If we have 5 people that have medical appointments in different places, taking them on a bus and making them wait through the day, you're more likely to serve people who are not your target population, because the people who are the most frail aren't going to be able to sustain that. So we have increased the participation by those who are disadvantaged, underserved, and unserved, and been able to maintain high consumer satisfaction. And we are increasing our collaboration with other organizations so that we can continue to do that. And that is all I have to share, unless you have questions.
Questions, comments? I'd kind of like to just throw one thing out there, that the realities that you face in Park County are, excuse me, if not unique, at least very, very stark. Increasing numbers of seniors, huge geographic area, limited by technology, dispersal of and limited sort of community resources in the sense of, like the one grocery store, that type of thing. So it's a real tribute, I think, to the coalition, Park County Senior Coalition, that they're able to maintain these services for that very diverse population. Phyllis on the Eastern Plains, she has that challenge out there as well. But this is a little bit of a much different situation in Park County. So again, it's just one of those things. We hear the challenges that each of the service providers face. They're sort of replicated and probably concentrate a little bit more in Park County. So it's just something to keep in mind as we look at these individual providers. Comments, questions?
I have a comment here.
Cynthia.
It seems to me that when we count service units, we're counting beans. But the true factor is that we really should be also looking at the time that is spent on accomplishing these things, particularly in Park County, where there's such a distance. And I think that we'd be remiss to not, in this case, ask for how much time it took. For example, the Rescue, 2 people, 72 encounters. I don't think that Rescue, you can do it in half an hour, right, Damabi?
No, in Park County, the way that respite is handled is that we assist in covering the cost of having someone come in for 4-hour blocks. So it's a 4-hour block, and we had a client at the beginning of the year and a client at the end of the year. And respite is like that for us. We have more people that qualify, but a lot of times the caregiver is overwhelmed, and this is not applying or processing to get a person coming in is not urgent. There are things that are more urgent on their plate. So because of the nature of respite, people are often short-term on the program. And the 4 hours was designed to, we got to the 4-hour position with feedback from our clients. That is 4 hours a week, and it is one block so that a person would have the ability to go out of Park County where the services are, if they need to talk to a lawyer, if they need to take care of something with Social Security or benefits information, they have the ability to leave the county and get their task done and come back. And for Park County, if you're talking about Fair Play, it's a 2-hour drive to get here. So if you're talking just even going grocery shopping and it's over the border, it takes a while. 4 hours is enough for someone who can't get rest because they're on call to also get 4 hours of a block of sleep, knowing that their loved one is being taken care of and that they can.
So for
take
two
some time
people,
off.
that's 36 vouchers average per person.
It's 36 hours.
Oh,
That was only
36
hours of
because
service.
service units. Okay, so that's not, like I said, Bean County. I think
No.
it's a little confusing here for, is this service units all hours?
It varies. So respite, if you look, assisted transportation is miles. I'm sorry, no, it's not. It's one-way trips. So for us, that is typically 120 miles.
Okay. I think for our RAC people, and I've sat on, when we look at applications here, it may be more for us internally to clarify what the service unit is. Because there is a difference between time, counting, miles, and I think that's something we, in our
I appreciate that because it is an area
Yeah,
where we wind up.
it's very confusing to me right now.
Making, when it costs $24 to drive someone 10 miles in a more populated area, but it costs us $49 to go 120, then that's not apples to apples. And it's hard to convey that just on the bottom line. For case management, that is also in time, that's hours. Chore is hours. Respite, hours. The meal program is meals, frozen or shelf-stable. Homemaking is hours. Nutrition ed is items, it's per mailing usually. And then transportation is one-way trips. So for where we are, it's the respite at 4 hours was set by clients. We originally started off with 2, and that wasn't enough for them to do anything. They barely, even those that needed just to take a nap, they barely wound down enough to fall asleep before they were having to get back up. So the other thing that we have to think about is that in Park County, if you ask for service, it's coming from outside of the county, and you generally pay a fee to get someone to come to you. These are our current pay rates do not include a mileage reimbursement for getting a respite care worker to the person or a home care worker. The transportation vouchers cover once the client is in the car. It doesn't cover that the driver drove 29 miles to get to the client. And so there are a lot of hidden pieces in here, and that explanation makes a big difference to how it all looks.
Jody?
Bobby, where do some of where does the funding come from to cover those hidden costs, those 29 miles for the driver to get to the door?
It depends. So originally, when the coalition set up some of these programs, or if we receive a grant that covers that outside of the PPACG funds, then we will cover that with other funding. Sometimes we work with another agency. They're allowed to do something that we're not, and so in partnership we can cover things a little bit better. Right now, what's happening is that over time, a lot of these programs are becoming more and more subsidized by the people using the programs. So if It's not covered by the funding. Sometimes when you look at the cost per unit of something, it is a statement of the cost of the portion that you're covering, not the cost of providing service. So maybe PPACG on a trip is covering $24 an hour, but in reality, CDOT is covering another $40 per unit. I'm sorry, it would be per unit. But those are hidden because that's not part of the report. For us, if the coalition can't cover it, then we're asking those people to volunteer, and that is on them. And that right now we've got people making it very clear that they're not finding that comfortable, and that we've lost some of the people that we had as volunteer drivers. When we switched from volunteer driver to the voucher program, in order to keep the cost per unit down to a rate that is allowable, we wound up not cover in volunteer drivers. We covered getting the person to the client at a lower mileage reimbursement because that was not the priority, but it offset their cost. We no longer do that. So all that they're getting from PPACG and through our organization is once the client's in the car. So either the client is making up the difference, the client may be paying them out of pocket to get them to come, or the person providing the service is doing it out of kindness. Yes. Sherry?
I was surprised to hear in Custer County that 50% of the population is over 60. Do you have any statistics for Park?
I do not. As soon as I heard that, I figured we better go look that up.
Would you get?
I looked it up.
Uh-huh.
What would you get?
Put your mic
there's
on.
There's about 3,000. Your population's about 16, and according to the U.S. Census, it said your senior population was 19%.
I will need to take a look at that because the way that we have been able to identify the count, and 2 years ago the count was 4,343, and it would have gone up since then. The way that we get that count is because it's not a census number. It's an estimate if you take it from the census numbers. The census only does 65 and older, and then you have to extrapolate what 60 would be. The coalition goes to the clerk's office and asks for the voter rolls for anyone 60 and over, and that's where we get our count. And so that helps us do outreach also to identify who we haven't already contacted. But if it was 4,343 a couple of years ago, it's going to be more than that now. So I would say that's a little bit low.
What was the total population? 19?
16.
16.
Oh, yeah.
And I
it's
think
more
it was
like
from a year or
17
two
now.
ago.
Yeah.
2016 when I looked, yeah.
So, yes, Trevor?
Do you have any thoughts yet about how the new clinic is going to affect or assist in your service outreach?
We work very well with the people who are helping to promote that clinic. One of the agencies that is instrumental in getting that clinic approved was Rocky Mountain Rural Health. And in Park County, as in actually most communities, I believe, you'll find the same 5 people volunteering for everything. And so we've worked with Rocky Mountain Rural Health and with Dr. Fitting through prior clinics in our area, and also because she's the one you call if you're worried about your family in the middle of the night. And so as a result, we're already well connected with them. They are actively involved in that clinic. We refer back and forth consistently, and she is currently on our board. So we expect that that's going to make a big difference. Years ago, that was what, when we received the meal program in, I believe it was 2007. Before that, it had been handled by a Visiting Nurses Association, and they were covering administration out of Colorado Springs. When they were handling it, it was managed differently because it was from a medical model, and they had restrictions we didn't. The meal program got tied. We were down the hall from the clinic, and they referred people to us all the time. We referred people back to them. And so it's been, we serve a lot of the same people.
I guess my question was really directed around the lessening the need for transportation out of the area.
So what'll happen is in the South Park area, in Fairplay, Hartselle, Alma, Jefferson, Como, maybe, we'll see a lot more people going to the clinic as a first check. The first issue is that the clinic is going to be aimed at serving low-income populations, and a lot of those are not our seniors that get seen first. Those are going to be working age people, not retired, people with children. They're not going to have enough room for everyone, but it will be more of a crisis management. People will probably go to the clinic before heading to a hospital. The other piece to keep in mind is that the clinic is going to relieve a lot of pressure off of healthcare. People will go instead of staying home. Right now, a lot of people do not go to the doctor when they should, and part of that is because of cost, but even if you have insurance, even if you have a doctor, right now the demand is so high that it's a 40-minute drive to get to medical from South Park if you go to just the general practice. But then most of our people have to go to a specialist. If they're going to a specialist, they still have to go to Denver or Colorado Springs. Maybe a specialist will come through once in a while over in Frisco. And so that serves the population right there in South Park, but because of the way that the geography in Park County, the other populations are already going out of the county in other directions, and one clinic isn't going to be able to serve the entire population anyway. So it will help. What it will do is it'll extend the dollars, the service that's available, because those that take the short trips will allow us to serve more of the longer trips. And some people have suggested, just from a numbers standpoint, when we say, well, we're driving people 120 miles, they go, well, that's not feasible. You should drive them 20 like everybody else. So if we drive them 20, it doesn't even get them out of the county. Exactly. Wait for your next hitch a ride. We do have people that hitch rides. We have one client that's been very vocal about how she thinks transportation should work. And that's because she lives alone. She had a son living with her, but he's now incarcerated. She has no idea where he is. And so she's now alone. She cannot drive. And she has a couple of people that she relies on. If those are not available, she starts off walking with a walker, and town's 26 miles away. She's tough. But generally, she gets picked up before she gets there.
Any other comments? Thank you very much, Bobby.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're moving on to the alter ego for Joe Urban, who's on vacation. So Lisa's going to fill in with the director's report.
And it's short and sweet. We are in the process of gearing up for our 4-year planning, and that's going to include multiple excursions out into the community to gather public input around things like prioritizing services, which services are the most needed, and the catchment area for the AAA. That will lay the groundwork for the funding in the next 4 years as to where it'll inform the technical review subcommittee's decisions on awards based on the prioritization of those services. And there is going to be an opportunity, or there has been in the past, for the RAC to also chime in on that. So it's pretty important. There won't be fireworks. but it is important. So if you're interested in hosting or finding the site that's going to be closest to you, you can contact Joe. And they're going to be held late next month, which is just Saturday, and early in October. So any volunteers, just contact Joe. If you know of a group of people that you think would help inform the plan and what needs to be in that, then that's certainly a group of people that we would like to talk to, especially if it might be an underserved portion of our county or our catchment area, not just our county, such as people who are homebound and can't get up and get out and go to a community event. If there's a way that we can reach some people that typically we don't reach, I think it's important that they are heard as well, because their needs won't necessarily be expressed if we don't make an opportunity to reach them. Yes, Pat?
Are there paper surveys or anything that could be included in things like Meals on Wheels?
I don't know, but that's a good suggestion, and I'll make that suggestion to Joe.
Anything else?
Yep. One more thing, as you've already heard, last year, as far as funding went, was a real roller coaster ride, and a lot of people like to ride roller coasters 2 times in a row if they can. So we have the state of Colorado right now. We are existing on state money, and we're very lucky to live in Colorado because they provide a lot of state funding to offset the federal money. Not all of the states do that, so we're lucky to be able to have that much money to depend on. But it's going to be a similar roller coaster ride to last year, but it'll be a ride we've been on, so we'll know kind of what to expect, whether we're going to go upside down and backwards or right side up and forwards. So film at 11. I don't. That's just. We'll just have to take things as they come.
Okay, for my chair report, I guess I think it was important that we heard again the rundown on membership and the terms. I think that's something we should all be keeping in mind, looking for people that we know or are aware of or that are engaged in senior activities in the various geographic areas, organizational areas, and various issues that we come across here. Just like to kind of foot stomp yet again the value, I think, of being able to interact with the AAA staff. Joe keeps coming back and pats Rack on the back for doing wonderful things and having this great reputation, but I think it really behooves us to really take out to our immediate areas, to the people that we deal with, to let them know that this AAA here in El Paso County, the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, is really a stellar organization. And it's not just, one over here and one over here. It's across the board. So that's really an important consideration. We can kind of get wrapped up in the individual problems and challenges that seniors face and that we try to advocate for on their behalf. But the takeaway is really that the staff here is really, really engaged and respected across local, state, and in many instances federal level for their expertise and what they're doing. So just wanted to kind of toss that out again. It's not just unnecessary plotted. I think it really is an important piece that we keep in mind. So that's all I had to bring out at this point. The calendar of events is next.
Yes.
And Lisa, if you have some on that?
I do. So I looked on our website, and you guys are always welcome to do this. We have a calendar of events there. For the remainder of this month, we have a Community Advisory Council meeting on, was it 29th yesterday, or is today the 29th?
Today's the 30th.
Oh, okay, well, never mind. Forget that. You missed it.
Where are we looking at
And
September? Yeah.
There were snacks. I'm sorry, you missed it. We have engaged with the public library system in town, and there on September 6th, there's a Medicare 101 class at Library 21C. And then our Board of Directors meeting is on September the 12th at 9 in this very room. And that's it for the month of September. So that's the 6th and the 12th. All of our meetings here are public. We have other meetings I didn't mention because I'm not sure if you would be interested. The Rural Transportation Authority Board, our Citizen Advisory Committee is meeting, and there's a workshop for the board that the board members go to. But that's all I've got on the calendar for the AAA right now.
Community information from the members or from members of the audience, the guests that are present. Jody.
I have two. The first is with the Alzheimer's Association. Of course, most of our funding comes from our fundraising and our development. And this year, our Walk to End Alzheimer's is September 15th at America the Beautiful Park. And we'd love for you to join us and make donations to grow out our programs and help support what we do for the community. However, if you are not able to come to the walk or you are not able to build a team, I have a way for you to be involved, and I have a handful of these. Feel free to pass those around. My colleague in the office, Charlotte Long, who's our development manager, has created a competition where you can vote to have a pie thrown in the face of one of our team members. $5. It's $5 a vote. The pie throwing will happen at 11:15 on the day of the walk. There are 10 members, so I'm not the only one on the list, but the two will get a pie in the face, one with the highest votes and one with the lowest votes. So, $5 a vote, I take cash. But just let us know. There's contact information at the bottom of the page. So that's, again, it's a lot of fun and all to a good cause. The other is that I'm also involved with a health and education fair that will be in Calhan, October 6th. That's put together by the Community Outreach Center. That is from 9 to 2. So if you know folks in our rural areas that you would like to invite to that, we'll have around 50 vendors and a variety of services available on site that day, and that will be at the county fairgrounds. So that's October 6th at the county fairgrounds. Thank you.
So on the same day as the walk, directly afterwards, at noon, if there's anyone who's interested in doing family history work, but you've never gotten started, not quite sure how to get started, there is a free workshop available from 12 to 5 p.m. on September 15th. It's at the LDS Chapel on Centennial Boulevard. And I believe somebody over here who's an expert will be participating in helping teach people. But every 30 minutes there'll be a new workshop available. I think one of the most difficult parts about getting involved with doing any type of family history research is knowing how to go to all the online resources. And for a lot of people, particularly our seniors, who would love to get into this as a hobby, that can be very overwhelming. And so getting the accounts and those types of things so you have access to the locations of where you want to do some research, it will be very, very helpful.
The priority will be able to help them get on an account with Family Search, which is that computer database. And by the way, when I said I was going to be working with them back east, the object of scanning all these documents is that it's a partnership with the New England Historic and Genealogy Society and with the Descendants Society and with Family Search to have this on line, indexed, etc., for 2020, which is the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower's arrival.
And it is a free event. So this is a free event from noon until 5 p.m., September 15th, on Centennial. I can give you the actual address if you're interested. But if you've ever known anyone who said, gosh, I wish I could do that, but I just kind of, a little scary, this is the opportunity to take.
The thing about that is, I got in 87. And it's, I have one that I started with, which was the family.
Mhm.
Okay, and then they get bought out by another one, and every time you turn around, seems like online, it'll cost you to take this, to put it into this new one, that got this one out. And it gets very expensive, actually.
Yeah, she's your expert. She'll
Well,
help
on
you.
Family Search, there is no charge, so, for any of it. And you were talking about buying software, like Roots Magic, and they do change it. Like, I just bought some on sale in February, and now they got a new version now, and I should have been thinking about that.
Yeah, when you have, I have it on the computer.
Yeah, well, in the past, Family Search did have other programs. I mean, they have evolved. But this is it. This is it. This is the,
So anyway, so free, September 15th, finish your walk, get some lunch, and then head over there. 12 noon to 5 p.m., and the workshops start every 30 minutes. So you wouldn't be there the whole time.
And we'll
It
have
would
lunch
just-
at the
yeah.
walk, so you're covered.
Oh, there you go. You're covered. There you go.
Great.
It'll be a great day. So.
Bobby, you had a hand up first?
So the community conversations in Park County will be in Shawnee, the Daly area, and then also in Fairplay at the Senior Center. The one in Bailey is at 9 a.m. at the Shawnee Community Center that we've met at before. And the Senior Center meeting will be at 1, but they will be serving lunch earlier for the members of the PPACG AAA that are coming for the community conversations. The Senior Center is willing to provide lunch for all of you, but they need to know how many. So let
Okay.
us know if it is September 19th.
Okay. Another,
Mark your calendars for October 17th. That's the date of our formal launch of transportation from Calpan into Colorado Springs. 10 o'clock in the morning, we'll be meeting at the Community Outreach Center at the El Paso County Fairgrounds in Calhoun.
all right. Any other community information? Just a reminder, the next RAC meeting will be in Teller County at the John Wesley Ranch Retreat Center, which I didn't Google that, but I think that's the one that's on the way to Cripple Creek. So, and it's at 10 o'clock, it's not at 9 o'clock.
Give you a little extra time to get there in the morning since it's in a rural area.
So again, that's September 27th, 10 a.m., John Wesley Ranch Retreat Center. Any of the last-minute alibis? No? I can entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? Who seconded? Phyllis seconded. All those in favor? Adjourn. Thank you.
The little mouse.
Knows the ability to